Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. No matter what your question or concern, we've got it covered right here on the show. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. I'm in conversation today with a very special guest, Ajay Thakur, the head of BSc SME, joining us to talk to businesses about why you should look at the stock exchanges when it comes to fundraising. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, Mr. Thakur. Always a pleasure chatting with experts like yourself to give a ringside view of what's happening when it comes to, finance, comes to listing questions that are always top of mind for SMEs and MSMEs. My first question to you today is, the BSE was, of course, the first exchange to launch an SME platform. Today, as we speak, stand 95 of 330 companies have migrated from the BSE SME to the main platform. You can talk to us about the journey that you've seen and your thoughts really on that.
If you see year 2010-11, when we were deliberating and discussing about the SME platform, there were a lot of pessimism at that point of time whether this SME platform will be successful or not. And as the guidelines unfolded, there are a lot of responsibility that has been put on the merchant banker, both from the primary market perspective and secondary market perspective. There is always a Chinese wall between the primary market and the secondary market. So now the role of the secondary market was also given to the merchant banker, and merchant banker were not very much comfortable on the SME platform because of this dual responsibility. Having seen that, and today if you see both the stock exchanges together, almost 550 companies listing and almost 6,500 crores of fundraising and total market capitalization of 35,000 crores. I think in some sort of having that background, I think we have done well. Last 2-3 years, though we have not seen a lot of SMEs coming, but in the background of this COVID and all this situation, again this year we are seeing a lot of SMEs filing the prospectus, and going forward I am quite sure with the aggressiveness that we are showing, I am quite sure that many more SMEs will like to come into the formal sector and get themselves listed onto the stock exchange.
Okay, I will come and talk about the impact that COVID has had on businesses when it comes to listing. But first and foremost, I want to refer to headlines that I've picked up on publicly available reports suggesting that only 4% of India's small businesses, whether they're SMEs or MSMEs, really have access to formal methods and formal funding mechanisms. How is that going to change in your mind?
Sunanta, very good question and valid question. In fact, if you see, we have in India almost 70 million MSMEs. And out of that, hardly 3 to 4% are in the formal sector. And seeing that, obviously with 3 to 4% in the formal sector, obviously those companies will only be able to avail the credit facilities. Besides that, over the years, we have seen that most of the MSME promoters are technocrats, and they don't have so much financial understanding, and the major reason for these companies not to avail the loan facility or use the finances in the best possible manner in the companies is there because of financial literacy. There is a lack of financial literacy still in the market. And as far as the capital market is concerned, most of the promoters don't understand. They have got misconceived perception that post listing their compliances will grow manifold. So I think these are the reasons why we are seeing very less number of SMEs getting the credit facility. Besides that, also there is a lack of bandwidth, lack of transparency in the company. Financial management is still a big problem, and these are the major reasons why we are seeing that these companies are unable to get formal source of financing. Still, they are dependent on informal source of financing, which most of the time is expensive in nature. But with lot of NBFC coming and with the digital financing coming into force, I think more and more MSMEs will be able to get finance. Another
Okay.
big thing that has happened, government Mudra loan facility and CGT MSME scheme. I think these schemes will help MSMEs come into the formal sector and get money through the formal source of financing.
So let's take a step back, and I would love for you, sir, to talk to our viewers about what they should do when they're preparing for listing. If you know that you're going to list, say, in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, what steps should you perhaps start putting in place right now to ensure that you're ready for listing?
First and foremost thing is that let me tell the viewers that as far as our SME platform listing guidelines are concerned, they are very simple. What we are saying that if a company is in existence for 3 years with 1 year of operating profit and net tangible asset of 1.5 crores, then they are eligible for listing. So we are trying to cover most of the
Sure.
companies, but still the companies who wants to go and go for listing on the SME platform, the one and the most important thing that they should start working is that they should start doing the financial planning. They should keep their books of accounts in a proper shape. They should complete all the regulatory formalities, whatever is there. If there is something pending, filing with the MCA or ROC, those things needs to be completed. And after that, if they
Mhm.
decide for listing them, there are merchant bankers, there are financial advisors who are there to help them to complete all other formalities, and those will take another 2-3 months. So if these promoters can do all this financial planning, they keep their books of accounts audited, and all the regulatory
Okay.
formalities are completed, or if they are finding something that they are unable to do, then they can take the help of their financial advisor and even the merchant bankers who are doing the listing onto the SME platform, and those things will be completed. Let me tell you, most of the times the promoters feel that they have to do a lot of things before going for listing. We have
Yeah.
made the SME platform very simple, and we have requested the merchant bankers to handhold the promoters in completing all the financial documentation and the regulatory documentation. So these merchant bankers help them in doing all these things and bring them onto the SME platform.
Okay. I just want to go back to the previous question where you were talking about what small businesses should do to prepare for listing. What are the biggest challenges that you face when you are looking at, bringing more and more small businesses onto the BSE SME platform? Is it lack of information? For instance, I do know you not too long ago you announced a tie-up with the IT alumni cell, trying to bring these kind of mentors in touch with small businesses and therefore onto a listing platform like yours. What are you doing really in terms of overcoming some of these challenges? Could you talk to us?
See, the biggest challenge is always, regarding the fear of compliances and the fear of takeover in the minds of the promoters. Let me tell you, there is no other challenge. In last 8 years of launching this SME platform, I have already met 33,000 promoters across the country and done almost 2,200 seminars with various industrial, professional associations and SEBI. And even in this lockdown period, we have done almost 125 webinars. But the problem what we are facing is that always the promoters fear that already they have to do so many compliances that they are doing. Besides that, they don't want to take the additional burden of doing additional compliances. And again, another, these are unfounded fears, which are
Okay.
not motivating the promoters to get listed. But still, we are doing a lot of awareness program. Even now, the government has started talking of getting the listed and talking about the benefits of listing. In last 6-7 months, we have already signed MOU with government of Gujarat and government of Maharashtra.
Yeah.
And the reason
Yeah.
for this is that we want to leverage these government bodies to reach to the last mile of these promoters in tier 3 cities or even tier 2 cities, so that we can make them
Okay.
aware and help them in getting listed onto the stock exchange. So I'm quite sure that going forward, many more promoters will come, and there are precedents now of some very successful companies which got transformed from into large corporates. So seeing those companies, I think that many other SME promoters will get motivated and get themselves listed onto the SME platform.
Sure. I do know that the BSE SME on its part, for instance, is bringing down the criteria when it comes to listing, bringing down the fees, all trying to encourage more and more businesses to list. So for 2021, if you had a wish list to say this perhaps is where we want to end the year out in terms of number of listings, where would that be?
I see, conservatively, if you ask me, that we are trying to get at least 100 SMEs listed on our SME platform. But as far as wish list is concerned, sky is the limit.
All right, so fair enough. I do also want to, and I was looking at some of the companies which have listed, particularly in 2020 on the BSE SME. A lot of listings, I understand, coming in from the real estate, hospitality, industries. Would you like to see it becoming more broad-based? Through this interview, if you want to reach out to some industries or sectors which don't traditionally look at the capital markets to list, to tell them, why aren't you looking at this platform to fundraise? What would those sectors be?
See, if you talk about BSc SME platform, it's already very broad-based. We have almost companies from
Okay.
17 sectors. So,
Mhm.
in fact, we are sector agnostic. We feel that almost all sectors can cater to the requirement of the country, cater to the needs of the country. Okay, but if you see the budget, there has been a lot of focus on healthcare and infrastructure. I think and with this you will see a lot of companies into health tech business or edutech business or even infrastructure. There the lot of fund requirements will come, a lot of exposures will be there in the market, and they will rush to get listed. So I think this is the one way to raise funds to the stock exchange. We have got both SME platform, the startup platform, and we can cater needs of funds and exposure to the various participants. So I am quite sure that a lot of
Okay.
SMEs and startup will look into the SME platform to get listed.
I do want to ask you also about funding for women owned businesses. Single digits is the kind of funding that is coming into women owned and fund businesses. How do you think that's going to change? Are you confident it's going to change?
And now we are seeing that women-backed businesses are doing very well. So we need to handhold, we need to help them, we need to support them, and ensure that most of these companies should be backed by lower interest rate funding from the banks or other financial institutions.
BSE, of course, becoming the seventh largest stock exchange anywhere in the world. First of all, congratulations on that. If you can talk while you've spoken about your wish for 2021 for small businesses, for the BSE SME, if you can do some crystal ball gazing and tell us what your wish list is looking like, what would that be?
Sometimes we get scared, but we get opportunity. Okay, and if you see last when it started, when corona has started in 2020, everyone was scared. 6 months back, who has ever thought that a stock exchange will cross 50,000 and touch 51,000? Even best of the pundits would not have thought about but everything changed. Okay, as the economy starts unlocking, we have seen crossing 1 lakh crore and GST collections crossing 1 lakh crore. So everything started changing, and our promoters once again back to the business, even the turnover reaches to the pre-COVID era. So all good things starts happening, and I'm quite sure that this year will be far better year. We have seen a fantastic budget in place, and
Sure.
I think that should say growth oriented budget, and each sector of the economy will be benefited out of that. Even if you see the allocation for the MSME sector, it has moved up. So a buoyant stock market will help government companies also to raise funds, okay, which will help in the government raisement. And second thing, many of the private companies will look to the stock exchange for raising funds for their growth. So I am quite sure that Indian economy will grow. What we are talking about, $5 trillion economy. At the same time, we may see the stock exchange also following that path. But the most important thing, let me tell you, what in last 145 years the stock exchange do. I am not going to talk about census and all other things. Our role is to
Sure.
provide the funds to the entrepreneurs for their growth. And I think that BSC is or you can say that India is a peculiar country, a first growing country over the years, which has seen a vibrant capital market. Okay, nowhere else we have seen like this. And we have got a vibrant capital market with the best regulations and practices in place. And I'm quite sure that with such a vibrant capital market, promoters will find it a better place and safer place to raise funds. And at the same time, it will be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders.
Fair enough. I do want to ask you also about funding for women-owned businesses. Unfortunately, while only 4% of MSMEs, and we discussed this when we started our interview, have access to formal finance, single digits is the kind of funding that is coming into women-owned and fund businesses, and we're talking about any kind of funding, particularly PE, VC funding, but also any kind of funding. Uh, how do you think that's going to change? Are you confident it's going to change?
See, India is changing. Okay, few years back, no one was talking about, women entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurial journey or, women-backed businesses. Now these things have started changing. Okay, and now we are seeing that women-backed businesses are doing very well. So we need to handhold, we need to help them, we need to support them, and ensure that most of these companies should be backed by lower interest rate funding from the banks or other financial institutions. And at the same time, even government is thinking of giving subsidy, and some of the schemes they have already provided subsidy. Besides that, there should be some interest subventions by the state governments that can help in their growth. And as far as stock exchange is concerned, benefits or some better cost-effective platform for them to, raise funds through the capital market.
My last few questions, sir. What message would you want to give our entrepreneurs? Earlier we were talking about the lack of information. When it comes to things like, say, the fund of funds, for instance, as far as listing is concerned, for small businesses, what would you want them to know about the different, say, avenues that are available to them when it comes to fundraise, and to tell them that fundraising is going to become easier? There are a lot of options. You perhaps should look at these multiple options.
Promoters need to be aware about the financial aspects in the company. Okay, the financial literacy needs to be improved. Okay, and unless until
Yeah.
they know about all the avenues that are available in the market, they will not be able to leverage their balance sheet. So that's what I was saying, that over dependence on one source of funding is not good for the business. Any balance sheet where
Sure.
they have over leveraged themselves through debt funding. I think they should look towards all sorts of funding, whether it's a debt funding, whether it's a equity funding, or even private equity or venture fund or angel funding. They should look to all these avenues and accordingly decide
Sure.
that what funds are better for their company and go for their growth. We as a stock exchange talking about this MSME platform for last 7-8 years, doing so many seminars,
Yeah.
and we are available. We request the promoters, the entrepreneurs, that please come to us. We are going to handhold you to your towards your development. We have seen many companies getting transferred post listing, and in this way, even their debt fund interest rate will come down. So that is very, and therefore the promoters need to use all these sources of finance for their growth.
Okay, my last question to you, sir. The broad theme that you were working with on Leaders of Tomorrow is empowering a billion dreams. What message would you want to leave our viewers with, whether they are an entrepreneur, whether they're a student, whether it's just an enterprising Indian who's looking to a brighter future?
See, over the years, India has changed. In our time, our fathers were talking about going into the government jobs. Now everyone is talking about setting up the business. And India, with such a huge population, more entrepreneurs. Okay, we have got highest number of young people. Okay, so we have got demographic dividend, but we all know that young people are also impatient, and unless until we provide them better jobs, the dream of India will never get fulfilled. So for that, we require job providers as well as job seekers, and we want to nurture the job providers. So we request them that take the benefit of all the avenues that is available. We will be happy enough to get associated, help you in transforming you to a multi-billion-dollar company. And not only that, listing will also give you a lot of exposure. Your balance sheet will become healthier. You will be able to retain best of your employees by giving them ESOPs. And there are other benefits that are also associated with listing. So please come. We really want to see a lot of entrepreneurs, lot of big entrepreneurs, and I'm quite sure that that will help this country in becoming $10 trillion economy, not only $5 trillion economy.
Fantastic. On that very optimistic note, Mr. Thakur, thank you so much for your time here on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Completely out of time on that episode. Our details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.